Emma Coronel Ispuro, the wife of the most notorious drug lord in modern history, has petitioned a federal court to end her supervised release early, announced a new autobiographical TV series, and is now positioning herself to leave the United States. The woman who once shuttled messages for the Sinaloa cartel, helped mastermind a prison escape, and then did time in a U.S. federal prison, is making moves that have the internet asking one question: what is she planning? On the morning of February 22, 2021, Emma Coronel Ispuro was arrested at Dulles International Airport. She wasn't running, she wasn't hiding. The arrest took place at the Virginia airport, and according to multiple sources, she may have walked right into it. Sources who spoke to Vice News on the condition of anonymity claimed that Coronel voluntarily surrendered and was seeking a court settlement. A lawyer representing Guzman and Coronel, Jeffrey Lichtman, denied it. Either way, the charges were not small. She was arrested on charges of conspiracy to unlawfully import and distribute illegal drugs, money laundering, and transacting business with a significant foreign narcotics trafficker designated under the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act. The FBI had been building a case for years. The FBI's arrest warrant stated their probable cause included evidence of Coronel shuttling messages from Guzman to Sinaloa cartel associates, assisting Guzman's escape from the Altiplano prison in 2015 through bribery, and following his recapture, helping coordinate another escape attempt, aborted following Guzman's extradition. This wasn't some peripheral figure getting swept up. According to the FBI, Emma Coronel was an operator. FBI Special Agent Eric S. McGuire stated in an affidavit, "Coronel grew up with knowledge of the narcotics trafficking industry." He continued, "Based on my investigation, I know Coronel understood the scope of the Sinaloa cartel's drug trafficking. She knows and understands the Sinaloa cartel is the most prolific cartel in Mexico, and the allegations went beyond just knowing. She was heavily involved with her husband's prison escape." According to government witnesses cited in the affidavit, the feds said she didn't just pass messages. The land where the tunnel exit was located was reportedly purchased by Emma. That tunnel, by the way, was an engineering feat, a mile-long underground passage through which El Chapo famously escaped on a motorcycle, and after that escape failed to keep her husband free, and he was recaptured in 2016. She allegedly tried again. After Guzman was returned to Altiplano prison, he met with Coronel and again discussed escape plans. Coronel told a government witness that approximately $2 million had been paid to the Mexican official who oversaw the prisons to facilitate a transfer back to Altiplano. However, the transfer did not happen, and Guzman was extradited to the United States on January 19, 2017. So when Emma Coronel was standing in that airport terminal in Virginia, the weight behind those handcuffs was years of evidence, cooperating witnesses, and a paper trail that ran from Sinaloa's mountains straight through maximum security prison walls. The woman the tabloids had once followed for her designer outfits at her husband's trial was now the one in custody. And what happened next, the plea deal, the prison sentence, and everything she's done since getting out, that's where this story really starts to unravel. To understand why Emma Coronel's recent moves have sent shockwaves across both the law enforcement world and the cartel underworld, you have to understand where she came from, not just geographically, but the bloodline she was born into, and the world that shaped her long before she ever met Joaquin Guzman. Emma Coronel was born in Santa Clara, California, on July 2, 1989, and is a Mexican-American citizen. She grew up on La Angostura Ranch in Canelas, in the Mexican state of Durango, which is located in the region known as the Golden Triangle. This mountainous area where the states of Sinaloa, Durango, and Chihuahua converge has historically been the epicenter of illicit crop production and the birthplace of several drug trafficking networks. This is important context. The Golden Triangle isn't just a geographic designation, it is the cradle of Mexican organized crime, poppy fields, marijuana crops, and the trafficking corridors that have fed billions of dollars worth of drugs into the United States. Originate in these jagged mountain ranges, and Emma didn't just live near this world. She was born into its inner circle. Emma's father, Inés Coronel Barreras, and two of her brothers, Inés Omar and Edgar, allegedly participated in the Sinaloa cartel's drug trafficking operations and were arrested between 2013 and 2015. Her father wasn't some low-level associate either. U.S. authorities believe Coronel Barreras was a key operative of the Sinaloa cartel, who grew and smuggled marijuana through the Arizona border area. And then there's the uncle. Emma is also the niece of Ignacio Nacho Coronel, a pioneer in methamphetamine trafficking for the Sinaloa cartel, who was killed by the armed forces in Jalisco in 2010. Nacho Coronel was one of the founding pillars of the cartel's methamphetamine empire, a man whose name carried enormous weight in the narco world. So when people try to paint Emma as a naive ranch girl who stumbled into something she didn't understand, the family tree tells a very different story. Coronel knew exactly who Chapo was and how he made his piles of money. She had been steeped in the narco world her whole life. Her father was a drug trafficker. That said, Emma herself has pushed back against this narrative. In the Oxygen documentary that premiered in November 2025, she claimed she didn't fully grasp who Guzman was when they first met. One of the points that drew the most attention was her initial lack of knowledge about the identity of the kingpin. Coronel explained that she grew up in isolated conditions on a ranch in Durango, without access to basic services like electricity. Whether you believe that or not, the timeline is what it is. During her adolescence, Emma often participated in beauty pageants at her town's fairs. According to several reports, this is how she met Joaquin Guzman Loera, whom she married in 2007 at the age of 18. The way their meeting unfolded is the stuff of narco legend. Coronel recounted that during a party she overheard that an important person wanted to dance with her. They told me, "That person wants to dance with you." A gentleman. And he said, "My name is Joaquin," she recalled. At that time, she was 17 years old, and he was around 50. That age gap, 32 years, would become a recurring point of scrutiny. It was a gross power dynamic from an age perspective, 18 and 50. Remarked crime reporter Emily Palmer, "That's not a man you say no to." But say no she did not. Coronel explained that their formal romantic relationship didn't begin until she turned 18, around 2007. She debunked the belief that they had a formal wedding. "It was a symbolic wedding. We didn't have a civil ceremony. It was simple, at my ranch, with my family, music, and my cake," she explained. Within a few years, at the age of 21, Emma had twin daughters, Imali Guadalupe and Maria Joaquina, with El Chapo. She raised her daughters for several years in Culiacan, Sinaloa, where she had moved with El Chapo shortly after their marriage. In Culiacan, Emma allegedly spent most of her time alone, while her husband ran the Sinaloa cartel. Meanwhile, El Chapo's empire was reaching dizzying heights. His drug empire made Guzman a billionaire, and he was ranked the 10th richest man in Mexico, and 1,140th in the world in 2011, with a net worth of roughly $1 billion. And until Guzman's arrest in 2014, he was considered the most powerful drug trafficker in the world by the U.S. Department of the Treasury. Emma was married to a man who commanded entire shipping routes from South America to the United States, bribed presidents, and had an army of gunmen at his disposal. And she wasn't watching from a distance. She was, according to every federal document filed against her, an active participant. The cartel didn't just surround her. According to prosecutors, it ran through her. The arrest of Joaquin Guzman in February 2014 marked a seismic turning point, not just for the Sinaloa cartel, but for Emma Coronel personally. Emma was present during El Chapo's arrest in the coastal city of Mazatlan. The couple had been staying together at a beachfront condominium, a secret rendezvous arranged by Guzman with his wife and daughters at the Miramar Hotel in Mazatlan. "We were all really surprised that he hung around, that he stayed in Mazatlan," retired DEA Special Agent Carl Pike said. "That willingness to stay, to risk capture for time with his wife and children, would cost Guzman his freedom. But only temporarily, because what followed was one of the most audacious prison escapes in history. And Emma Coronel, according to prosecutors, was at the center of its planning. She allegedly took advantage of conjugal visits to the maximum security Altiplano prison to pass messages between El Chapo, his children, and other Sinaloa cartel operatives, to orchestrate his infamous escape through a tunnel in 2015. The land where the tunnel exit was located was reportedly purchased by Emma. The escape itself became the stuff of dark legend. El Chapo famously escaped a maximum security prison by riding a motorcycle through a mile-long underground tunnel. The tunnel was ventilated, well-lit, and built on rails. It opened into a small building on a property that investigators traced back to Coronel's finances. Court papers contend that Coronel worked alongside Guzman's sons, Ivan, Alfredo, Ovidio, and Joaquin, and another person, now a government witness, to build the tunnel and execute the escape. That collaboration with the Chapitos, El Chapo's sons, is a critical detail. It positions Coronel not as a passive spouse, but as a bridge between El Chapo's old guard and the next generation of cartel leadership. She wasn't just visiting her husband in prison. She was allegedly running a covert operation that involved bribery, construction, and multi-million-dollar logistics. After Guzman's recapture in January 2016 and his subsequent extradition to the United States in January 2017, Emma found herself in a terrifying new reality. With Chapo out of the country, she felt vulnerable to the other factions leading the cartel, as well as rivals of Chapo's who might want to settle a score. Now that he was helpless to retaliate, the man who had once shielded her with his power was locked inside a concrete box in Florence, Colorado. The notorious United States Penitentiary Florence, a supermax federal prison, and he was never coming out. El Chapo is serving a life sentence. He was convicted in February 2019 on murder, conspiracy, and drug charges. He was also ordered to forfeit $12.6 billion in profits he made off his drug business. With her husband entombed in Supermax, Emma pivoted. She stepped into the spotlight in ways that surprised everyone. After her husband's second arrest and his subsequent extradition and life sentence, Emma began to lead a more public life. In 2019, she launched a clothing brand called El Chapo Guzman JGL LLC, with Alejandrina Guzman, the daughter from another of El Chapo's marriages. That same year, she appeared on the VH1 reality show called Cartel Crew, where she talked about her life and business. Around that time, she also created an Instagram account, where she posted photos of modeling, social events, and travel. She showed up at her husband's trial in New York, day after day, dressed impeccably, with red lipstick and diamonds and tight jeans, embodying a persona that captivated the press. A diva of Sinaloa, said Romain Lacour, a Paris-based security analyst. But beneath the glamorous surface, the walls were closing in. And then came her own legal reckoning. She pleaded guilty in June of 2021 to charges of money laundering, drug trafficking, and a criminal violation of the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act, and was sentenced to 36 months in prison, according to the DOJ. The sentence was lighter than what prosecutors wanted. Prosecutors had asked for a 4-year sentence, but U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras imposed a 3-year term, saying Coronel's role was a small piece of a much larger organization. Her attorney at the time played up one undeniable fact. Coronel was 17 when she met Guzman and married him on her 18th birthday. This began when she was a very impressionable minor, married to a powerful man, more than 3 decades older, attorney Jeffrey Lichtman said. And so Emma Coronel, the wife of the most powerful drug lord the world had seen in decades, went to prison. She was held in a federal prison in Virginia and a minimum security prison in Texas for a total of 2.5 years. In September 2023, she was released on parole after a brief stint in a Los Angeles detention center. What she described of that time behind bars was bleak. It was quite hard. Being separated from my daughters was the worst, she said. You have time to think, to cry. You don't have anything to distract you. I was falling into depression, but it was what she might have told authorities while inside those walls that has kept tongues wagging in Sinaloa ever since. When Emma Coronel walked out of prison in September 2023, she entered a world that had shifted beneath her feet. The Sinaloa cartel, the empire her husband built, was fracturing. 4 of El Chapo's adult sons had taken over running a faction of the Sinaloa cartel since their father was incarcerated, and are known as a collective called Los Chapitos. But their grip was not unchallenged. Ovidio was arrested on January 5, 2023, and extradited to the U.S. on September 15 that year. And Joaquin was arrested in El Paso, Texas, on July 25, 2024, along with Ismael El Mayo Zambada. The timing of these arrests relative to Coronel's imprisonment raised red flags across the criminal underworld. If Coronel cooperated during her time behind bars, and what she told the U.S. government, if she did, will remain between them. But to those watching in Sinaloa, the timing around the arrest of Ovidio and the new charges that recently emerged don't look good. The suspicion that Emma may have cooperated with federal authorities, even partially, carries a weight that outsiders cannot fully comprehend. In the world of the Sinaloa cartel, cooperation with the government is a death sentence. It doesn't matter who you are or who you were married to. Mexican journalist Anabel Hernandez noted that if Emma cooperated, it breaks the paradigm and puts her in danger. If Emma is collaborating with the Department of Justice, she must be providing them with a whole anthropological panorama of how the cartel works. She can also provide very sensitive information that could threaten her life. And yet, since her release, Emma has leaned hard into the public eye rather than retreating from it. She told the Oxygen documentary that she continues to live one day at a time and is focused on new opportunities. "Since I got out of prison, I've been working on different projects," she said. "My parents have also been helping me. It hasn't been easy." She's working on developing her own brand and has been doing modeling work, even walking on the runway during Milan Fashion Week. That Milan Fashion Week moment in September 2024 was a surreal spectacle. She walked the runway at Milan Fashion Week for Californian designer April Black Diamond. "I opened and closed the runway," she said. "I modeled a wedding dress and an evening gown. It was a very beautiful experience that I will never forget." But beneath the catwalk glamour, the legal shackles remained. To leave the United States, she needs permission from the court, and it's this restriction that Emma has most aggressively been trying to dismantle. Emma Coronel has requested early termination of her supervised release from U.S. authorities, which was originally set to end in 2027. Through her lawyer, she requested that the remaining 17 months be waived so she can dedicate herself to her daughters and her work. Her legal team has painted a picture of a reformed woman. Her lawyer assures that Coronel has already completed the most difficult part of her sentence: 3 years in prison, the payment of a $1.5 million fine, and maintaining exemplary behavior, dedicating herself almost exclusively to excelling in her profession as a model and influencer. But the parole restrictions have been a source of significant frustration. Her attorney, Marielle Colon, has spoken publicly about the toll. Colon explained that the supervised release has been an obstacle for her client's professional reintegration. Sometimes they don't give her the permits, or when they do, the job opportunity has already passed. She has lost work because of that, because sometimes they call from one day to the next. Currently, the Department of Justice doesn't oppose advancing the end of her supervised release, but the office that manages it does. Judge Rodolfo Contreras will make the final decision, but the date is unknown and nothing is set in stone. And while all of this plays out in federal court, Emma dropped what many consider her most provocative announcement yet. In early 2026, news broke that Emma Coronel wasn't just building a brand, she was building a narrative empire. The notoriety of Joaquin Guzman Loera is set to resurface in a new bilingual scripted series, told from the unique perspective of his wife, Emma Coronel Aispuro, and is executive produced by Coronel herself. This is Emma Coronel executive producing a dramatized series about her life with the most wanted drug lord in modern history, from her point of view. The series, according to Coronel herself, will be narrated from her perspective and will address aspects of her personal life, including her relationship with Guzman, her arrest, and her time in prison. Coronel, who married Guzman in 2007 and shares twin daughters born in 2011, has stated that her husband was a longtime admirer of Amaya's work. She noted that Guzman would be pleased to see Amaya portray him, which Guzman found lacking in previous portrayals by other actors. Read that again. Emma Coronel is relaying messages from El Chapo, a man locked in the most secure prison on the planet, about his preferences for how he should be portrayed on television. That kind of communication, even if filtered through lawyers or intermediaries, sends a signal. The connection between Emma and Joaquin Guzman is not severed. Her own lawyer confirmed as much. Marielle Colon stated that even though she can't visit her husband and will never see him free, Emma still loves him. She's not going to stop loving her husband or leave him because he's serving this sentence. She has to live away from the crimes and illegal activities. Of course, she has to live away from the crimes. And that's why they can't talk. That's why they can't see each other. That's why she can no longer visit him. But that doesn't mean she's left him. Meanwhile, the situation surrounding her family in Mexico grows more volatile by the day. In May 2025, her father and brother obtained a temporary suspension to avoid being extradited to the United States after Mexico had turned over dozens of drug traffickers to the U.S. And more recently, on January 15, 2026, the Mexican Navy dismantled a camp and warehouse containing precursor chemicals for the production of methamphetamine, Tusi, and synthetic opioids in Petitlan, Guerrero. According to official data, The facilities were allegedly linked to Ines Omar Coronel Ispuro, Emma's older brother. The Coronel family is still deeply intertwined with the drug trade. And Emma, despite her claims of being a reformed model and influencer, is asking a federal court to remove the last tether keeping her in the United States. Her dual citizenship prevented her deportation to Mexico, but if her supervised release ends, there's nothing legally stopping her from boarding a plane. The current series development, coupled with Coronel's memoir, also in progress, suggests a deliberate effort to control the narrative surrounding Guzman and his family, potentially reshaping public perception of one of the most infamous figures in modern organized crime. And in the documentary that aired in late 2025, in the final moments, Coronel seemed to show some contrition, offering an apology to those impacted by the cartel's violence. But how genuine can an apology be from someone who is simultaneously producing a TV show that romanticizes the very era she's apologizing for? There was a cloud of suspicion around her, noted Sonia Sharp, a crime reporter for the Los Angeles Times. She herself is one small step removed from bloodshed. The documentary itself posed a question that still lingers. Was she a calculated mastermind or simply a victim of circumstance? The answer, based on everything we know, probably lies somewhere in the uncomfortable middle. Author Annabel Hernandez has written that women like Coronel learn to move in this world, in which they arrive as victims but end up as victimizers, enjoying a bloody wealth and educating their children in the criminal system. Emma Coronel was born into the narco world. She married into its highest echelon. She helped engineer a prison break. She did time. She came out. And now she's asking to be free, fully free, while producing a TV show about the cartel lifestyle, relaying her imprisoned husband's casting preferences, and watching her brother's alleged drug labs get raided by the Mexican Navy. The shocking announcement isn't just one thing. It's the totality of what Emma Coronel is doing right now, filing to end her parole, announcing a series that glorifies her husband's legacy, positioning herself to leave the country, and doing it all in plain sight while maintaining, with a straight face, that she's left the cartel world behind. Whether you believe her or not, one thing is certain: Emma Coronel is not done making headlines, and the people watching most closely aren't sitting in YouTube comment sections. They're in courtrooms, DEA field offices, and the mountains of Sinaloa.